Hello, gamers. Let's talk Paladins. Okay, so if you look in the Old School Essentials Advanced Player's Guide, it really has old school Paladins where they need to be lawful and stuff. But that's not necessarily what we're doing in LOFT here. I mean, you can if you want. Definitely that Paladin exists in the world. It's probably the most common type of Paladin in the world. But what we might think of as the modern idea, if people weren't old like me and they weren't there, is that, these days, if you look in the more current versions of our game and stuff, Paladins can be of any alignment. Paladins can follow any religion or belief system. They can, they can represent a whole variety of beliefs and stuff. So that is actually not new. Although it is true that the original Paladin that made it into the official books, like the first edition Player's Handbook and the box set D&D Beckney fighters at 9th level could become Paladins. It was true that they were required to be lawful and stuff back then, and in AD&D lawful good. The idea that Paladins could be more, that goes all the way back to first edition days. There were Dragon Magazine articles. There was one called A Plethora of Paladins, and it had 9 Paladin classes, one for each alignment. And of course, there were Dragon Magazine articles on the anti-Paladin, the chaotic evil one, all the way back to first edition. People have been, I guess if you were here, you'd see me making air quotes, around the word unofficially. People have been unofficially enjoying Paladins that weren't necessarily lawful good for a long, long time. So in LOFT, your Paladin does not necessarily have to be lawful good. In fact, there are a couple specific variations on Paladins that are going to get their own videos. The Anti-Paladin deserves its own video in this series because it's kind of different. If you want to play one now, just contact us on Discord and ask. And a Defender Paladin deserves its own video. Basically, just to kind of cover it here, we know that the regular Paladin is kind of a fusion of Fighter and Cleric. The Defender Paladin is kind of a fusion of Fighter and Druid. What if the Paladin was more Druidic than Clerical? Okay, so that's kind of the idea. But Defenders and Anti-Paladins are definitely going to get their own videos in this series because they're different enough. Kind of like the Rake is different enough from the regular Thief to eventually get its own video in this series as well. But right now we're making it through the official Old School Essentials materials. So, if you like Paladins, they don't have to be lawful good. And also, we're not doing this thing where they have to be human either. That was a very old school thing. I've mentioned before in previous videos that we're not restricting, character species and character class unless there's some big reason why, something just couldn't be something else. I can't even think of an example right now these days. It used to be that they used to say in the lore of the game that halflings and dwarves are just non-magical, and that's just why they can't be mages. And then it was 3rd edition, 3.0 and 3.5 of our favorite game that said that anybody can be anything, and they got all kind of, loosey-goosey, which hasn't been a bad thing. I like the lore, for flavor and everything that, dwarven mages and wizards are rare. Halfling mages and wizards are rare. They're not impossible, but they're rare. And so, I think that like I said, a lot of my philosophy as a game master and towards the game is that usually on most issues, maybe not every issue, but on most issues, there's room in the fantasy world to have your cake and eat it too. So you could have dwarven wizards, halfling wizards, but you could also have them be super rare. And just say, Mage Spark or whatever just doesn't run in those species very strongly at all. So a halfling or dwarf that was a wizard would be a rare individual. Not going to find them necessarily running all over the place, like, say, in an elven community. Don't think, if you like the lawful good traditional Paladin, we got them. If you want to branch out and do something a little different with the Paladin, we got them. So that's Paladins. And tomorrow, We're going to continue making our way through the Old School Essentials Advanced Player's Guide, and tomorrow we hit up the Ranger. So in the meantime, I will see you around the gaming table.